Welcome back. With us now is Jason Nallen, a local attorney, and we're talking about child custody. Jason, we've covered the factors of child custody, what the Supreme Court says on modifications, and all of these things. The one thing that we haven't touched on is the one that always seems to happen after the divorce or after initial custody. One parent decides to move, and how does that affect custody?
Well, I didn't pull the actual statute for that today, but I would say, in essence, and I'm going to oversimplify for purposes of our discussion, but there is a relocation statute. And the relocation statute, in essence, provides that where the parties are spending substantially equal amounts of time with the children, it provides for a much more difficult burden in that situation for you to pick up and relocate with the child and, in essence, deprive the child of the other parent's companionship and custody. So, in essence, the court looks at actual time spent. You could have a parenting plan that says, you know, mom's got the child 3/4 of the time, dad's got him 1/4 of the time, but the court's going to look at what's really occurring, what's really going on. And if it doesn't matter what the parenting plan says, if the proof shows that comes out before the court that it's, in essence, equal time, well, then it's going to be a much more difficult burden for that parent who desires to relocate to be able to do so. However, if there is not substantially equal amounts of parenting time, if it's the party who has primary custody most of the time with the child who's desiring to relocate, it's not near as difficult to burden. In that situation, and again, I don't want to oversimplify, but in essence, the issue there becomes whether the person is attempting to move away out for vindictive reasons to deprive the other parent of parenting time. The court will look at whether, you know, there's really a legitimate opportunity in essence where they're wanting to move, that they have a good job lined up, that there is a legitimate purpose behind the move. In that case, when they have the child most of the time, it's not near as difficult to burden.
Mm-hmm. And that's always the interesting thing with this is, you know, one party will talk to, or one client will talk to somebody that's gone through this, and you know, their situation's different, the burden was different there, and they don't necessarily know this. And that's where I think it ties back in. It becomes so important to make sure when you are discussing these issues with somebody that, and thinking about going into court, that you find an attorney who does child custody cases on a regular and consistent basis, because just as early on in this discussion, the laws changed in this area within the past year. And with that, what are your suggestions on how to fill out an attorney to see if they're right for your child custody case?
Well, I think you really need to consider whether this person is someone who regularly does child custody. Child custody is difficult, grueling work. It can string out forever, quite frankly, almost forever, it seems, to the parties that are involved. The court can appoint counselors. Various things can happen that require sort of a long course of litigation. And a lot of attorneys, in my experience, that don't do this regularly, they're not prepared for that sort of long course of litigation. It wears on them. It's a difficult area of the law. With that said, too, I think you touched on it. These determinations are very fact-specific. And you have to develop your proof in a certain way that it fits within the statutory factors to ensure your greatest probability of success in obtaining a favorable custody arrangement for your client. And I think that people that tend to somewhat dabble in it, attorneys who don't do this regularly, that's something that they just don't have the practical experience of being in court every day in these type of cases and knowing how to develop their proof to achieve the desired results. So much, and this is true for many areas of the law, but I think particularly with respect to child custody, you don't need someone who primarily is a criminal attorney or something along those lines, not to disparage criminal attorneys. You don't want me doing a murder case in much the same way. You don't want someone who primarily does murder cases handling your child custody case. It's one of the most important types of litigation that most people will ever find themselves involved in. At the end of the day, there's more on the line than money could ever replace. And so you need someone who is well-versed and experienced in these type of cases if you're going to spend the money and go through the process of an extended, protracted legal battle concerning custody.
I think I can't say it any better than that. Our time is up for this edition of Legalese. I would like to thank our guest for taking time out of his busy schedule to be with us and for sharing his thoughts and insights. If you would like more information about Legalese or any other program on GHS TV, please refer to our website at www.ghstv.org. Thank you for joining us today, and be sure to join us next month for more discussion on legal topics. Until then, I am Vince Perryman, and thank you for watching.